Jake with the Tattoo Improvement Network, and today I will be sharing with you tips for successfully tattooing knees and elbows. Be sure to keep up with us by subscribing to our newsletter at tattooimprovement.com. Alright guys, I'm clipping in on the second sitting on this tattoo actually, and I did that for a couple of reasons. You'll notice first that I'm working above the knee right now, so it's not really truly working on the kneecap. It's a little easier right there on the thigh and easy to get good saturation. But the first reason I clipped in on this episode, or on this sitting, is because I want you to take a look at the red stripes and how kind of the dark areas aren't really solid black and they're a little spotty. And that's because I just kind of scrubbed them in loosely with the intention of going back, almost like a painterly style, going back in and saturating them more fully in another sitting. And that brings me to my first point with knees and elbows is I always try to get a healed look at them if you can, and schedule a time to pick back through them, just because there's almost always going to be inconsistencies. Secondly, I wanted you to see the blues fresh and then healed. We're going to clip into a third sitting here in a little while, and you'll see kind of how much they kind of dull down when they're healed. Another thing I want you to notice, I'm going through right here with the liner after the shader. I was using a 13 mag there to start to block in my darks, my dark blues to my light blues, and then I came back through with a liner and pushed up against those stars. Did that for a couple of reasons too. Most importantly, I wanted to establish how the form turned, where I went from dark to light. And if I had just picked a medium blue and lined those stars with it, you would have seen the outline on the stars where it got lighter, and I didn't want that. So what the lines helped, or what shading first helped me to do, was to establish how that form turned, and then I was able to pick those same colors and transition them within the lines of the stars, so they didn't read as actual lines. I don't know if that made any sense. All right, so I'm packing through in transitioning from darks to lights in the blues. That's kind of hard to tell with the time-lapse footage, but I'm really being deliberate and slow and trying to get a really nice saturation. You'll notice that it bleeds a lot. Knees and elbows bleed a lot, and for that reason, you really want to wipe often, get into an area and get out of it, and rinse your tube very often. All right, there you go. Now you can see this is the third sitting, and that those blues are healed, and you can see how much they've kind of dulled down, and they're not quite as vibrant or poppy, and that kind of lets you know that you really need to push that contrast harder than you think you should, because subtle variations don't read all that well. Also, I apologize for this part of the video. I had to put the camera on my head. I left my tripod at home, so it's going to get a little sickening to watch for a minute just because I'm moving around so much. Okay, so here you can really tell I'm using really light tones, so it's hard to see the saturation because the irritation in the skin pops up so quickly. So what you have to be able to do is to recognize whether or not you're getting that color in solidly without actually being able to see it. And I do that by feeling in my offhand or my stretching hand, feeling for a vibration, a consistency in vibration. You'll recognize it whenever you see a nice solid area of saturation. You can almost feel that it's going in there. It'll just be a nice deep kind of vibration that you feel in your offhand. And I try to do that not just on knees and elbows, but everywhere. So I'm working kind of dark to light within these stripes, within the individual stripes, and I'll pack in there nice and solidly, and then I'll try to get away from it and move to another area and let it sit and let it settle for a little while, and then I'll wipe back through it later, and if I need to blend a little further or to saturate a little further, I can. Now notice how dark those dark areas of the white stripes look. It's really just kind of a bone color, but it reads a lot darker than that. It's really not too dark of a color. But like I was saying with the blues, you do need to push that contrast a little bit more, even in light areas. You need to identify how the form turns, because it's got to be able to hold up over a long period of time. And with knees especially, you shed a lot of skin there, and they tend to kind of fade and lighten anyway. So I'm probably pushing that just a little bit deeper than it looks like I should. Like I mentioned earlier, so important to rinse your tube regularly, wipe the skin regularly. Once the initial line work is done, I try my best to use Bactine or some type of what do you call them, like a topical antiseptic, just to kind of help push irritation away from the skin, keep the bleeding down, which is pretty difficult in knees and in elbows. But I try to wipe, instead of wiping with soap or water, I'll move over to something like a Bactine and wipe consistently with it really often, just to keep my inks and my tubes from becoming contaminated with a lot of blood and plasma and all that stuff. Like I said, it's hard to tell because of this time lapse, but I'm really moving with a very slow and deliberate hand, feeling in my offhand for that consistent vibration, making sure that I'm getting it in there nice and solidly. Now I'm coming through with those deep reds, and I think that is actually Eternal's deep red that I'm using right over the top of those blacks. And what that's doing is it's saturating the skin more fully, and it's warming up those shadow tones. If you look at the ones I haven't touched yet, you'll notice they're kind of flat and dull, and they're a little too cool because they were straight black, and black is a cool tone. By laying a straight kind of deep red over it, I'm able to warm those shadows up and make them look a little more natural. People always think that lights are warm and shadows are cool in a natural kind of setting, and often that's true, but you have to think your shadows are cool compared to the lights. That doesn't mean that if you have a red shadow, a red light, you're always going to have a blue shadow. You'll still have a red shadow. It'll just be cooler, bluer or greener or whatever. So right here, really deliberate, really slow, trying to saturate those colors as best I can. I'm not too concerned. You'll notice that I'm going in with reds after I've done all these light tones, all these whites. I'm not too concerned with the skin, the light tones picking up that red. I've never actually seen that happen. People talk about working dark to light. You can kind of stain the lights, but you'll notice right there that I'm really not. You can see in those light tones that they didn't pick up any of that red really at all. Like I said, just be nice and deliberate, slow motions, rinse your tube regularly. I also try to have the client exfoliate their skin in the days leading up to, and moisturize their skin in the days leading up to the tattoo. If you want a full list of tips that I think are important for tattooing knees and elbows, there's a link below this video. Just click on it, and it's a printable PDF that you can just kind of check off, starting from before the tattoo, preparing for it, all the way through the actual tattoo. Hope you guys liked it. Thank you.